American President Donald Trump has finally delivered on his threats.
25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico.
He says he's punishing both countries, but these tariffs have hit First Nations as well.
The impacts it has right now is the uncertainty because the majority of the seafood that we harvest is sold, eventually transformed, processed, and then sold to the U.S. markets.
Denny Isaac is the Associate Director of Natural Resources for the Listuguj Mi'gmaq government. He says Listuguj exports between 80 to 90% of their snow crab to the United States. Isaac says its economy is going to be heavily impacted.
Snow crab depends on the season and the price and the stock, can bring in upwards to, could be $5 to $10 million annually. So quite important to the community because these revenues are outside of any type of government programming that comes from Indigenous Services Canada, and these are usually used to support community projects that ISC wouldn't support.
With uncertainty of how long these tariffs will be in place, it's possible the community may need to look for new sources of revenue.
We're kind of stuck right now, but I think moving forward, I think we need to start finding new markets and become a little more independent.
Isaac says neither the Quebec or the Canadian governments have reached out to offer ways to work together on how to respond to Trump's tariffs.
Few changes in the agenda for today.
The Assembly of First Nations of Quebec and Labrador says it's also been left out of these discussions.
I think the relationship between Canada and US is changing. And this is going to have an impact on our First Nation, that's for sure, and obviously on our land. So that's why we need to be there at the table.
The AFN-QL's newly elected regional chief, Francis Verreau-Paul, says First Nations need to be included in decision-making.
More than ever, we need to be united on different fronts.
In a press conference held in Montreal, APTN News asked Federal Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault why the AFN, QL, and Listuguj aren't part of any tariff talks.
Things are going very rapidly, but I'm confident that the federal government will reach out in the near future to the various nations and national Indigenous organizations.
While there are concerns about the long-term impacts of these tariffs, Isaac says he welcomes building cross-border relationships with Indigenous communities.
We don't have borders when the Mi'gmaq have, under the Jay Treaty, we can freely cross the border, and we have, dual citizenship between U.S. and Canada. And so we're hoping that we can, find new partners and hopefully maybe it'll create new markets with our Indigenous brothers and sisters in the United States and their homelands and their territories.
Until then, Listuguj is waiting to see how much of an impact Trump's tariffs will have on its economy. Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.